Hi pals. I haven't made a video like this in a very long time, mostly just because like I haven't really been doing cosplay because now I work at a Comic-Con. I can't really cosplay at shows or anything, so I haven't really done any cosplay. However, on my stream I have like a wheel, like a roulette wheel, where once we hit a certain amount of like subs or bits or whatever, the wheel spins and we do whatever the wheel kind of says. And the roulette wheel span a cosplay stream. I have very lastminute.com taken a suggestion from one of my community to do a Wario cosplay on as little budget as humanly possible, mostly just because not actually anywhere near my payday and money is tight. So I have spent £14.50 on 2 t-shirts and a cardigan. My goal is to turn those 3 pieces of clothing into a full Wario cosplay. Obviously, I won't have like the big round belly that Wario has, so I'll do like a full pan thing so you can see it. But we picked up this very bright purple cardigan, and I thought we could use like the sleeves for the little like dungaree things that he has and turn it essentially. Wow. So he kind of has like dungarees, but I was thinking if I made it a bit more like this, like a little playsuit, so follow the pattern I already have of this little playsuit, it would kind of be kind of cute and it would require way less fabric. So that's the plan for the little dungarees. I bought this Alessi t-shirt and I'm gonna chop off the bottom and essentially use all of the bottom part of the t-shirt to make the hat. And then I bought just like a plain white t-shirt with a little bit of stretch in case I fuck it up to make the gloves. So, and I'm just not going to bother doing the shoes because I'm doing it on stream, so there's no point in getting little pointy green shoes when I'm literally going to be sat at a PC the whole time. So that's the plan for making this entire cosplay from scratch. I have no idea how to make the hat, so I will be watching somebody else's guide. And then in terms of the makeup, I'm just going to face paint because obviously he's got like quite a kind of funky shaped nose and he's got a mustache, so I'm just gonna paint those on with face paint, to be honest. Oh, and he's also got some really big are they big bushy eyebrows? He's got very dark eyebrows. So I'm just gonna face paint those on to my own face rather than actually buying those bits, just because, again, we're on a very, very tight budget here. So £14.50 is as much as I'm hopefully gonna spend, especially because today is Saturday. I've just finished stream and then popped out to go and get all the bits from the charity shop, and I'm doing the stream on Wednesday and I am out tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday. So I've got today to try and make this cosplay out of very limited supplies, including making a hat. I also already have some like little bits of fabric here and there that I might need to use probably for the inside of the hat, because obviously it'll need to be rigid in places. So I'll either use EVA foam, which I already have, or I will use some fabric I already have. And then I already have blue fabric paint, so I'm going to use that to do the like W's on the hands and on the hat. We have very limited stuff. I am not really accounting for the stuff I already had in the budget, so like obviously if I had to then go out and buy like fabric paint and stuff, the budget would change quite a lot and we'd be looking more at maybe like £30 to £35 essentially. But because I do already have those bits, we kind of can save on that front. So yeah, £14.50. Let's see if we can do this. Here is the clothing haul again, just to give you a bit of a rough idea of how much fabric we're working with. It's not a small amount really. Like this is quite long, so we might be okay. It might be a very, very short play suit, so I think we will be wearing some tights underneath. I can't see us being able to go too long with it, unfortunately. But it does look like fabric that doesn't need to be hemmed too much, because this isn't even hemmed. So at least that'll save us on that. We can also try and use some edges that are already hemmed. Plus we could reuse these pockets and do some little butt pockets if we wanted to. You never know. We've also got like this fabric, which there's probably a lot more than there than I need, but I've also never made gloves in my life, so slightly worrying. And then with this t-shirt, it actually looks more kind of like, looks like darker on the camera, but it is actually like very, very bright yellow, which is the right sort of yellow we needed for this cosplay. However, I am going to have to come up quite high with the little dungaree things because of the Alessi logo. Otherwise it's kind of going to ruin the vibe a little bit. So yeah, we're gonna have to come up quite high on here. But once we've done that, and if we stitch the purple onto the yellow t-shirt, I can pretty much just chop a bunch of the fabric off for making the hat. And it is, I think it's a men's large, so yeah, it's quite big. That's the haul. let's get making. I started out by measuring how long I wanted the little dungaree kind of straps to be, and I've kind of been finding that wrapping paper is a really good tool for this, just because it's plain, it's cheap. On some of them they have the lines on the inside, which means that getting like a nice straight line is a little bit easier, and it means I can be lazy and don't have to use a ruler. I next took a top I knew was quite a good length on me and just kind of measured it in relation to the armpits on the Alessi t-shirt, just to kind of see the generic length I wanted it to get to. Obviously it was going to have to be a little bit shorter than a full t-shirt just because of the amount of fabric I needed to make the hat, but it just gave me kind of a general idea of where I wanted to cut and also how thin I could take it in case I wanted to use some of the excess fabric on the edges as well, because this is an extra large men's t-shirt. Now that we've snipped off the bottom and snipped off some of the edges just to try and bring it in a little bit and make it slightly more fitted to my shape, it's ready to sew. I next got my little play suit and kind of got a general idea of how big I needed the body piece to be and started trying to trace around it and worked out how much fabric I would need in relation to the little straps, little dungaree straps. This was honestly a relatively easy pattern to work with just because the actual play suit is made up of a bunch of different pieces. It's almost just like working with a puzzle, honestly. And because of the little dungaree things that we were doing, it has a nice kind of flat edge at the top, so I didn't even have to work with necklines and stuff, which is honestly my worst nightmare. I hate making necklines. The back was into kind of two little triangles with a zip down the back. It runs all the way down into the shorts. The shorts were honestly the most complicated part of all of this, and had I been doing this as trousers rather than shorts, I probably would have had a bit of an easier time. And because I wanted to keep this project relatively cheap, doing shorts or like a little kind of play suit type thing is much easier because it required way less fabric. I decided to make the shorts slightly longer on both sides. My actual play suit had shorter in the front and longer in the back to cover the butt. I decided I was just going to make them all long and just cut out all 4 pieces exactly the same. The cardigan fabric, the purple fabric, was actually a little bit stretchy, so it is slightly forgiving, so I wasn't too worried about that side of it. And here are the finished pattern pieces. So we'll be doing 1 of the piece I'm touching right now, we'll be doing 4 of the short piece, which is the kind of piece to the right. We will be doing 2 versions of the kind of strip piece, which is on the far right, but that'll be double the length, and then it'll be 2 pieces of the piece I just placed down, which is the back pieces. So I've chopped down my t-shirt a little bit, which you would have seen. I'm just going to stitch it up just so that it's kind of nice and tidy. And I've also chopped out the pieces I need for the like jumpsuit thing or the play suit. As you probably saw, it was quite rushed and not very clean lines or anything, but I have a very limited amount of time to make this. So I'm just kind of like trying to do it as fast as I can. I'm a little bit worried about having enough fabric, so I might have to almost make it backless or something. I'm not sure I'm going to have enough fabric, but we'll see. I'm definitely going to do the like dungaree thing, like strap things out of the arms, because I know I've got enough fabric for that. The rest of it I honestly don't know if I'm gonna have enough, because I need 4 of these pieces, 2 of these and 1 of these, so plus double the length of this twice. So I'm not sure I'm gonna have enough, considering it's literally just like that little pile of fabric over there, but we'll see. I'll give it a go. We can but try, you know. And like I said earlier, luckily this fabric seems to be pretty good because it doesn't seem to need hemming, so at least I don't need to leave a lot of seam allowance, basically only a little bit, because I won't need to chop it down too much to tidy it up, so that should help. Seamstresses and proper cosplay creators everywhere will probably be screaming at this point, but I'm honestly just going straight in, just chopping straight into the fabric. As I said slightly before in the recording, I had a very limited amount of time to make this, and I also wasn't planning on having it as a cosplay I would wear out very often. If I ever wanted to take it to a Comic-Con, I could, but as I work at them, it doesn't tend to happen. I can't really cosplay at shows, so I was kind of like, I'm only really probably ever going to be wearing this on stream, and no one's going to be looking at it from a kind of craftsmanship perspective, just on the general vibe, the general look. So I just went straight in, just chopped an arm off and then chopped the arm in half. Fortunately, at this point I actually realized that the arms are just big enough to cut out the top piece, which, as you will see later on, actually saves my bacon. So by using one arm for the 2 kind of dungaree straps and then the other arm for the top piece, I was actually able to make this cosplay. Had I not done that and had I not discovered that at this point, I genuinely would not have had enough fabric. We would have had to go backless, and I don't know how to go backless. I did briefly try and unpick the little pockets on the front, but every time I tried, it was actually just creating holes in the fabric. The stitches were too tight and I just could not get my quick unpick in there. I think had I probably had a little bit more time or maybe a little bit more perseverance, it might have worked out, but it wasn't really worth it. I didn't want to end up with a bunch of holes in the front of the fabric and not be able to use it at all. I instead said, tried to just use the pockets as a feature, so I couldn't decide whether I wanted them on the front or the back. I think I opted for the front in the end. They're not actually functional, you can't really use the pockets for anything, but yeah, we just went in and we started cutting out the pieces. Stupidly, I drew on the pattern pieces on the front side of the fabric. There is pen marks on the cosplay in the finished product, but hopefully it's not too obvious, especially on stream. I don't think it was particularly obvious. Yeah, I don't know why I did this. I really don't. So anyway, we're cutting out 4 pieces of the shorts at this point and kind of just making the little pockets a feature. This is where we started to get really low on the fabric. I had to cut up the kind of shoulder pieces just to flatten the fabric out a little bit and get out as much as humanly possible, but we were getting very, very low on fabric. I managed to use the kind of side bits around the arm holes, where the armholes would have been, into 2 more short pieces, but it was getting very close. The shoulder pieces in particular were a bit of a challenge, and one of them I actually just had to use kind of the arm section as part of it. So as you can see here with the shorts, I'm kind of trying to work out where on earth I can get the, like, squeeze the bloody fabric from. Thankfully though, because I used the edges as the bottom of the shorts, it meant that I already had like the hem there. I could get right up to the edge. I didn't need to add any kind of hemming allowance at the bottom of the shorts at all on any of the pieces, so that did save a little bit of the fabric. As you can see at this point though, we are really struggling for fabric, and we are going to have to use that very top bit just above the kind of curve of the shorts, the back pieces. So it is really, really lucky that we discovered that the arm actually had just enough fabric to do the kind of top, the front top basically. It was a bit of a squeeze, but we did manage to get all of the pieces that we needed to make the entire dungarees type playsuit thing. It was then straight into the shorts first. You can't really see exactly what's happening here, but basically I had stitched together everything kind of wrong because I don't really know how to make shorts. I've made maybe 1 pair of shorts in my entire lifetime. So yeah, we did stitch it together slightly wrong. This is me kind of trying to fix it a little bit. We did eventually get it right, where we did that kind of like cross section that you need for the crotch, I guess, of the shorts. As you can see a little bit, there is the kind of pen marks because I stupidly drew on the front of the fabric, but alas, we got there in the end. I next pinned and sewed up the edges of the shorts so that they were all ready to go. As I said earlier though, thankfully we did cut out the whole fabric where the kind of edges were already hemmed, so there was no need to hem any of the actual kind of short bottom bit, which is great. I next took the 2 back pieces and the front piece and stitched all of the edges of those together. The back pieces were a little bit dodgy just because I hadn't really left enough seam allowance, just because we genuinely did not have enough fabric to do this properly. So it's a little bit of a botched job, a little bit complicated to kind of pull together properly, but we did get there in the end. And then we were on to more sewing. I stitched together the top pieces together first, so kind of the back to the front on the bit that would go under the armpit kind of thing. That's where I kind of started stitching, and then once I'd done that and it was one full piece minus the back where obviously the zip was going to go, I then stitched the whole thing to the shorts and we had like one complete piece. Obviously I also just needed to give the yellow t-shirt a little bit of a stitch, so that was stitching up the kind of under the arm bits again, and also just hemming the bottom of the t-shirt because I had chopped off a bunch of fabric. It has been many hours of sewing and much music, and for some reason Alexa insists on playing Ariana Grande. But anyway, we're in. You can see in certain lights a little bit of the Alessi kind of symbol through it. It fits! And it's a piece, it's one whole thing. I also realized like halfway through, like I drew on the outside of the fabric rather than the inside. So I'm trying to work out how to get some pen marks off. And also I've got really weird just like pockets, like, I don't know how way you can see this. Pockets on the fronts is, you know, completely no function. But anyway, it's just because I tried to, you'll see in the recording, I tried to kind of unpick them and it was just making holes in the fabric. So in the end I was like, do you know what, I'm just going to use the pockets. We'll make it a feature. But I'm really pleased that it's on and it fits. I just need to stitch these on. Next, we're going to try and do the gloves. I'm hoping that should be relatively easy. I'm just going to draw around my hand and then like make some excess, basically. Also just ignore the state of the kitchen. It's an absolute bomb site. Yeah, so I'm going to try and draw around my hands and then cut out 2 pieces of fabric, stitch them together, hope for the best. I'm drawing around my hand. I don't know why I'm lying on the floor, but drawing around my hand. It's beautiful, technical, you know? I also have started using wrapping paper for like patterns and stuff for cosplay because it's so much cheaper than most things. So just buying like wrapping paper, and you can recycle it, which is great. And That's mostly the two things, but it does help that it is cheap and it's really easy to store as well because it's already in a roll. I'm in no way, shape or form an expert when it comes to cosplay making. I like to think I am. But I have found it to be kind of useful. I don't know whether that helps anyone or not. Right, let's try and make some gloves. I'm going to try and use the seam again so that I don't have to actually stitch it up. So I'm just going to pop this together and just sew it together. I've already pinned the fabric like this. I'm just going to, yeah, try and just use the seam and be lazy. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I've never made gloves before and I didn't really know what I was doing. I think most gloves tend to have a separate thumb, so you'd have the kind of like 4 fingers and then you'd stitch the thumb on separately, just based on what I've seen of stitched gloves versus knitted gloves. I didn't do that. But it's fine. They actually worked fine just because I did buy that super stretchy material that I found in a charity shop. So that was pretty fortunate. I used the hem that already existed and I just kind of sewed around my hand shape, but obviously slightly bigger, so I had a little bit of allowance for when it goes from 2D to 3D. But by just pinning the fabric together and stitching it straight away, I actually saved myself a bunch of time, and these gloves were super easy to make. So if anyone is ever just kind of like, oh, do I buy some and they're like £5 to £6 on Amazon, or do I buy a £3 t-shirt from the charity shop and make my own? Absolutely make your own. It was the easiest thing, honestly. So easy. Highly recommend. And I saved myself £2. And then finally we just kind of painted the W. I just got some really cheap acrylic paint from the works, and I already had some black fabric paint, so I just kind of mixed them together. It wasn't quite the right blue. The blue that Wario has is kind of like a lot richer of a blue. It's like kind of more of a navy royal type blue. I was very tight on time, so I didn't really have time to kind of like mix the perfect color, but we did get a blue and we did paint the W's on the hands, which is, you know, a nice little added extra, especially when I'm streaming. Obviously most of the time, unless I'm talking and I'm using emotive hands, you can't see my hands that often, so this was definitely kind of an added extra just to complete the look, but I'm glad that I did it. I've just watched a YouTube video about how to do paperboy hats, delivery boy, I don't know what they're called, but something like that. And you basically take like 8 shapes like this and 8 lining shapes like this and like a band that goes all the way around. I'm not sure how she's going to do like the little cap bit that comes out the front, but honestly what I think I might do is I might stick my yellow fabric, just because it's kind of thin, to a kind of like thicker white fabric to go for the actual hat, and then for the little cap bit I might just honestly get a piece of EVA foam and just cut out the shape I need and stick it on, because his kind of like cap bit that comes out the front is actually kind of long and quite pronounced. It's also very like tall, the hat, so I might need to think about making this a little bit taller, maybe. I mean, I have quite a small head. I don't know. Oh, it is kind of tall. Honestly, I don't know how it's going to turn out, but we'll see. Unfortunately, I only need half of the t-shirt to make the hat, or half of what I've got left of the t-shirt to make the hat. So if I do mess it up, I do have the other half of the t-shirt to try again, essentially. So we'll give it a go, but that's how I'm going to start it. I probably won't film most of this just because it's not actually my tutorial, it's somebody else's tutorial that I'm just kind of like vaguely following. But yeah, I might show bits and pieces, but probably not the whole thing. What do we think? Am I Wario now? Done, perfect, flawless. Well, we've successfully made a swim cap, basically. It doesn't have the right sort of front forwardness. Oh well, I think it's fine. I've cut out a piece of EVA foam like this that I will like heat set slightly down and then basically attach it with fabric over the top, and then that should be us. Once I've done that and decorated it and stuff, that should be us done. The fact that I haven't actually paid anything for this is great. I haven't been able to make it as kind of upright, this kind of forward bit, as I would have liked. It's on there, we've added a bit of white detail. I'm just gonna paint on the W, and then that's actually it. Like, it's actually done, which is, it's actually nuts, because I've made obviously all that. You can kind of see the Alessi logo thingy. I wonder if I can pick it off. If not, I could always wear the t-shirt back to front, to be fair. So yeah, I just need to tidy that up, but obviously I'm not going to film doing that, it was boring. Yeah, just paint the W on here. That's all done, just needs tidying. And apart from a bit of a mess painting the W's, the gloves are done as well. So that's basically an entire cosplay from scratch for £14.50. Wrap up. I just want to start by saying, obviously the video isn't perfect. It's not like, it's all filmed on my phone. It's not the ideal tech setup for a video like this. However, I just kind of wanted to film the process just because honestly it was quite fun to try and make an entire head to ankle, I guess, cosplay on £14.50. So that was quite a fun challenge. So I thought I'll just film it and see. Secondly, I would definitely get a printer if you're ever going to kind of do cosplay stuff, because trying to work out the hat was a little bit complicated, and had I just had a printer and got the exact shape I needed at the right size that I needed, it would have saved me a lot of time and headache, and it also probably would have come up much better because it came out kind of flat, and I also had no idea how to do like the little front bit, so I just kind of used foam. And I think had I been able to follow a guide properly with proper templates, I would have been much happier with the result. So that's kind of one aspect of it if you are ever gonna try and embark on weird projects with only charity shop t-shirts yourself. The other thing was that obviously the pockets wouldn't come off, so they're kind of like a cute little feature on the front of the little jumpsuit thing, which is kind of nice, or playsuit thing. They are also completely non-functional. Like the pockets go like sideways like this rather than like this, so I literally could not use them. The third thing is that when I was wearing it, the zip kept coming undone, and I don't really know why. I think the particular zip I use maybe just isn't very strong or something. It doesn't kind of latch properly. But anyway, it kept coming undone, so I'll probably, if I ever use this particular cosplay out and about, maybe to a comic convention or whatever, I will probably put maybe like a little latch at the top. All in all though, I'm really pleased with how it came out, and it was a really fun stream that we wore the Wario cosplay on. Would definitely like to do it again. I thought just being able to play Mario Kart as Wario, being Wario, was just a lot of fun, and I would definitely like to do it again. The next cosplay I'm currently working on is gonna be a long process, and it's also not one I'm videoing, but just to kind of give you an idea, I've been creating the Leona Lunar Eclipse sword, which has been really fun, and I'm also working on a Mazora cosplay from Baldur's Gate 3. That one will be ready much sooner because I only really need to make the dress and the headdress. I'm not gonna bother making the wings or anything, because especially if I'm wearing it on stream, I can't really sit here wearing wings anyway. Again, like I say, I haven't been filming either of these projects, but if you follow me on socials, you will eventually see them crop up. So thank you so much for watching this video. Really hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and to follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/emmalilico. Don't forget to follow me on other social platforms, which are mostly emma.lilico, just because somebody else stole my name. My YouTube videos come out once a week, normally on a Thursday. Sometimes we have Baldur's Gate playthroughs in between, just because I am publishing all of that playthrough on YouTube at the moment. So every Thursday for a YouTube video, but other pieces thrown in between. Thank you so much again for watching, and I hope to see you again next week.